Hi guys, sorry about not having class. Hopefully this will work out really well for you and not be a huge inconvenience. So today is all about measures of relative standing, part 2. Go ahead and take a minute, and I want to make sure that you can answer these 3 questions. So you're going to press pause and you're going to be sure that you can do this. Normal distribution, how do we know? There's a rule. Know what it is. And again, area under the curve, so that's talking about how much was between, percentage-wise, between plus and minus 1 standard deviation to 3. What is a z-score and how do we calculate it from a raw score? So press pause, answer those questions, and then unpause. Welcome back. So we have already talked about central tendency, we've talked about variability, we know how z-scores work, we know how to calculate them. Today's all about this percentile rank. So the standard normal distribution is also called the z-distribution. And it's this nice, lovely bell curve. We break up this z-distribution and we look at the shading. So how much of this curve falls within this light gray shading area? Well, that's between plus and minus 1 standard deviation. So we know that about 68% of scores fall in that area underneath the curve. If we expand that to plus or minus 2, then we have about 95% underneath the curve that falls between this area. And then the same between plus and minus 3, we have 99% roughly. Now with standard deviations, we are breaking this into huge chunks. So we're still looking at the area underneath the curve, but we're breaking it into these large chunks. We're moving on to percentile ranks today, and with a percentile rank, we are breaking these large chunks into little tiny pieces. So a percentile rank is the percentage of scores that fall at or below a given score. So if you've ever heard somebody say, I am in the 90th percentile, and they're bragging about it probably, that is because they are at that 90th percentile, and they are at or above 90% of the scores or the people. So to find this, we will have a z-score. So we have a z-score of 1.96, and we are going to try to find the area underneath the curve up to 1.96. There are several ways to do this. We can look at a table, so if you have a book, get it out. Otherwise, we're going to use this wonderful little website right here. So we have this fabulous table. At the top of this table, this is all about z-scores. So we have a z-score of negative 3.49 or 3.48, 3.47, 3.45. And then this right here is the area that is underneath the curve below that score. So let's look at a visual really quick. If we decide to look at a z-score of 1.5, so it's going to fall, let's say, right there. We want to know the area underneath the curve that is below that z-score. So we are looking for how much is falling right here up to this score that we have picked. Come back to this. So for 1.96, we're going to go to our table. We're going to scroll down. These are all negative. So we are going to scroll down to 1.9 and go over 9876. So right here we have 0.9732. What that means is that 97.32% of scores fall below that. Now, if I want to know the area above that score, so if I want to know what percentage falls above that score, well, a really easy way to think about this, the entire thing is equal to 1. So if I know how much part of the half of it is, then I can just subtract by 1 or by 100 and get out our handy dandy calculators, which we use all the time. We take 100 minus 97.32, and we know that the area above that score is about 2.68%. So let's do the same thing with a negative score. So negative 1.50. I'm going to go back to my chart. I'm going to go up to the negatives. So negative 1.5. What did I say? 1.5 exactly. Sorry. 1.5.0. And that is my percentage right there. So 0.0668. So the area below that is 6.68%. The area above that, I'm again going to take 100 minus 6.68. The area above that is 93.32. So let's go back to this picture. 1.96 is going to be right underneath 2, so that score fell right about there. Negative 1.5, that score fell way down here. So we can see that over 90% from this score, below it, this is a really good score. It's scoring higher than most of the other people. This score over here is scoring below the majority of the people. So it is going to be in a lower percentile. So there's a hint for you. If it is a negative z-score, it is going to be below the mean. So 50% at least of the scores will be above it. And the same for the other way. So if we want to look at the area below or above, or we can even do in between. So I can look for the area that falls below a z-score of 1.0. I can find the area that falls above a z-score of -1. And based on those two, I can figure out what falls between those two scores. So here's where this is interesting. I can look at a z-score of 1. And I can find the area that falls below that score. So I know this area. Then I can also look at a z-score of -1. And I can find out what area falls below that one. And if I subtract these two, then I know how much is exactly between plus and minus 1 standard deviation in this case, or z-score. And we know that that should be right around 68%. That's how all those fancy things that you get to memorize are found. So I want you to, again, pause this video and find the area above and below the following scores. So what percentage of the curve falls above and below these scores? Pause and come back. Just to reiterate, if we have percentile ranks that we are looking at, if the z-score is above the mean, it's positive, we're going to find the area below that z-score and multiply by 100. If the z-score is below the mean, it is a negative z-score, like negative 1.5. We still find the area below the z-score and multiply by 100. So again, we're going to the chart, we're finding the area below the curve, and we're going to multiply by 100. Now that chart's kind of awful. So here's a cheat sheet for you. This Math is Fun website is amazing. We can go click on this thing that says up to z, and you see how the z-score at the bottom is changing as I go. So there's negative 1.2 1, 2, and it's telling me that I'm at the 13th percentile. So I can go up to 2 exactly, if I can get there, and I'm at the 97.7th percentile. So feel free to use this and kind of cheat a little bit. It's sometimes hard to get them at the exact point, but this is a much easier way to get the percentile to match the z-score. You are more than welcome to use this instead of the table. So again, you're gonna pause the video and I want you to practice finding the percentile rank for a person with these z-scores, and then here's some book practice as well. Be sure that you know how to find z-scores, and then based on a z-score, find a percentile rank. We'll review this next class, but that is all you need to know. I'll see you soon.